So I was scanning around in Sovereign Nullsec in Branch, and I found an improved Garista's covert research station, the Nullsec Ghost Site. We know that ghost sites will drop those covert research tools, which we can trade in for so much ISK. So we're absolutely going to run the ghost site. But remember, in a ghost site, if you failed even one hack, an explosion that does 10,000 explosive damage destroys your ship and game over. And of course, in Nullsec, the hacks are going to be harder. So I have refit Priscilla specifically for ghost site running. We've left behind the sister scanner probe. Everything we've got on here is eminently replaceable. And in fact, if my calculations are correct, this tank might be able to survive one exploding can. So let's go get some covert research tools. Okay, here we go. Now remember, the one can is going to have that module that's used to build capital ships, which is worth 200 million ISK, but nothing to us. From what I've read and heard, it looks like that one can is separate from the rest above, I think. So we're going to avoid that one. We don't have room for a cargo scanner. So we're going to try and just burn as quick as we can towards a random can. We might have time to hack 2, if we're lucky. One can down. Covert research tools, 21. 31? That's pretty good. 15 million for the second can. If we can hack 2, we're going to get out of here. Oh, we got to warp. Activate. It worked. It worked. Heating our shield. We had 10,072 hit points. 31 covert research tools secured. Oh, I totally could have gotten that can too with like 10 more seconds. I don't feel bad about this. I'm not sure we're going to build a mobile tractor unit, but I will entirely, very happily, sell 15 million ISK worth of covert research tools. Task failed successfully. We're going to keep this fit, this ghost site specialist. Being able to tank that 10,000 hit point explosion in a Tech 1 frigate is pretty tech. Good job, Priscilla. This is Bill. Bill wants to build a Cynabal and join the Angel Cartel cause in Zarzak, but he's not making it easy on himself. Okay, so here's the deal. In order to build the 69 thermonuclear trigger units we need for our 4 Tech 2 artillery, we're going to need a bunch more spatial attunement units. Reprocessing the spatial attunement units gets us the hypersynaptic fibers and the Fernite Carmide that it takes to build the trigger units. We get those spatial attunement units from relic sites, which is going to mean more exploration. And in order to get all of the hypersynaptic fibers we need, we're going to need another 25 spatial attunement units. To get all of the Fernite Carbide we need, we're going to need 170. So this is a lot of relic sites ahead of us. I have been popping out through wormholes when they open up to quiet parts of Losec and Null with Priscilla the Probe, and I've been doing some scanning. And so far, through that process, over the last couple of weeks since we returned to Thera from the Forge, I have found 10 spatial attunement units. So progress is slow. That said, the exploration I've been doing has been very much just sort of catch as catch can. When the right holes open up, I haven't been going on big exploration adventures, and I have admittedly been getting distracted along the way by running data sites in the hopes of finding the skill books we need to build some more exciting Tech 2 rigs. I've also been running every DD 1 of 10, 2 of 10, and 3 of 10 that I found, and that's gotten me some good loot. Check it out. A-type EM coating, and another A-type multi-spectrum coating. But what running those DED sites and those data sites has not done is accelerate my spatial attunement unit acquisition, nor has it been filling up our wallet particularly. And then I popped out through that nullsec wormhole, I found that ghost site, and I had the brainwave of fitting up Priscilla to survive a ghost site explosion, and you saw how that went. And that made me realize that if I really set out to do some concerted exploration, if I got into it seriously, and I went on long probe-based adventures searching just for relic sites, ghost sites, and sleeper caches, that I can not only get my spatial attunement units, but I can potentially bring in a lot of ISK along the way. But there's one problem with that plan. The reason I haven't been going on these long adventures in Priscilla the Probe, venturing great distances from my outholes and just trusting that I can find a way back in when I need to, is because traveling through gates in Priscilla is pretty dangerous. This is the best travel fit that I have for Priscilla right now. The two Tech 1 nanofibers get my align time under 3 seconds, which is okay, but definitely means I can be caught on gates. And the medium shield extender with the 2 shield rigs means that I can survive a single smart bomb volley. I'm not completely defenseless, but I'm still a lot more vulnerable than something like Air in the Atron. Here's the problem with the probe, is that even if I fill the low slots with inertial stabilizers too, which remember will mean that I won't have the power grid to fit my medium shield extender, and even if I pull off all of these rigs, which means no gravity capacitor upgrade, and rig the ship out entirely with Tech 2 agility rigs, which remember I don't have the skill books to build yet, even if I do all that, my align time is still 2.08 seconds, which is not fast enough to avoid getting caught by a dedicated gate camp. So if I spend hours out in LowSec jumping gate to gate, collecting dozens of spatial attunement units, running ghost sites, and collecting those covert research tools that I can sell for ISK, I can have my belly completely full of everything I need and then die to the first random gate camp I encounter on the way back to Thera. It's not very appealing. But there is another way that I can be safe on gates. There is a way that Priscilla the Probe could sneak by even the most intense gate camp without having sub 2 second align. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while. I may very well come to regret this. I may come to regret it profoundly given the ISK grind ahead of us. But here we go. Prototype 1 cloaking device blueprint, 100 million ISK. Oh, and it is extremely convenient that the wormhole I came out through to buy that BPO is here in Angatili, because there's something I also need to pick up next door in Manar. You see, building a cloaking device requires a bunch of minerals, including morphite, but it also requires 4 different types of planetary materials. I confess I've been thinking about the possibility of buying this blueprint for a few days, and when I was out in this area picking up my reaction supplies in order to build those Fulleroids, I took the opportunity to do this. And now, we've got enough of the planetary industry materials to build ourselves 10 cloaks, which hopefully is far more than we will ever need. The whole point of building a cloaking device is to put it on a ship that you're then never going to lose. Now, in practice, it doesn't always work out that way, but I feel confident this is a lifetime supply of cloaking device materials. Now, a big part of the reason why I've let myself be seduced into buying the prototype Cloaking Device 1 blueprint is because we have looted from our PvP exploits, the spoils of war, these 2 Covert Ops cloaking devices, which if we do reprocess them, gives us all of the Tech 2 components we need to build a Tech 2 improved cloaking device. Now, of course, doing that is going to require inventing from a copy of the Prototype 1 cloaking device BPO. We will do that. It will take a little bit of time, but in the meantime, our persistent profit probing Priscilla plans will be made perfectly possible by a Tech 1 cloaking device. Prototype. P. I should have said prototype there. Check it out. Priscilla has a cloak. She has a sub 3 second align. She has enough hit points to survive a smart bomb volley, and she has our brand new hot off the presses small gravity capacitor upgrade 2. She's more than ready to go on a long, extended, nomad-style, low-sec expedition to bring us back those spatial attunement units, maybe even to bring us back those last 2 cytosorosins that we need. After all, we only need 10 units each of both of the gases we're still missing. We can huff those in Priscilla. We don't need to bring out Adventure. And while she's at it, if we find ghost sites, if we find sleeper caches, we have the refits that we need sitting here right in her cargo hold. All that's left for us to do is get out there. 9 signatures to scan in the system, and I'm going to scan them at a safe spot while cloaked. Oh, that's a nice feeling. That is a nice feeling. Spatial attunement arrays, or units, whatever they're called. Astro on scan. We have to be concerned about him landing on us. Two more spatial attunement units. One can left. Astro is still on scan. Whew. It was tense, but now we can get back to our safe and cloak up once again. Faintly Nebula. I think. Come on, Eve. University Wiki, tell me. Saintly Nebula contains vermilion cytosorosin, one of the 2 gases I still need. And Priscilla has a gas cloud scoop fit. There are several other people in system. We're going in. Not sure how long it'll take me to huff 10 gas with 1 scoop and an unbonused chip, but we are about to find out. Talk about unexpected windfall. Vermilion cytosorosin. We need 10 units. I want to mine 20, so I can drop 10 off in station and system in case we die on the rest of our exploration adventure. And so we can keep 10 with us in case things go well. One cycle. 1. Huh. 1 cycle is 1 vermilion cytosorosin. The cycle time on our gas scoop is 30 seconds. Okay. So we'll be here 5 minutes to get our first 10, and 5 minutes to get the next 10. I have 10 minutes to spare to lock down another check mark. Oh my goodness. I don't know why I'm so surprised to find this. I guess I was just really looking for... I've really been thinking about earning ISK through exploration, so I sort of laser focused on finding ghost sites or sleeper caches. I knew finding the gas site was going to be a possibility, and we've seen so many gas sites in our exploration around, you know, New Eden, but they keep always being the wrong ones. Although I guess these last two gases must be mid-Matar space gases, right? Because we found the two Cytos... No, because we found two Cytos in a Mars space. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm just thrilled to have found this. I hope no one shows up in the next 3.5 minutes. I know at least one of these dudes is in an Astro. And I think one of the other ones was in a Heron. I saw a Heron pass through. Let's just... None of these guys have scary looking kill boards. That's a good sign. The Astro has shown up on D-scan though. I am ready to warp out at a moment's notice. We're up to 5. Oh, I'm thrilled. I felt a little silly throwing this gas cloud scoop on Priscilla, but I was just like, you know, you never know, why not? Paid off. This would be much, much faster in Adventure, obviously. We only need 10. We mined our other two Cytosaurosins in Adventure, and I feel like it took us like 2 minutes. In Losec, the difference between 2 minutes and 10 minutes can certainly be death. But I'm getting the feeling in Katu Gumur, we're going to get away with it. Last cycle. And then we're going to promptly dock up to keep our 10 Vermilion Cytosaurosin perfectly secure, no matter what may come. Our 9, 10 Vermilion Cytosaurosin. Let's go. 10 Vermilion Cytosaurosin secured. Put up the check mark. Oh, man. Now let's go get another 10. We've been almost an hour on this exploration expedition out to High-Matar, and so far our ISK per hour on this adventure is 0. But our check marks per hour is 1, and that's incredible, and our spatial attunement arrays per hour is 5, which is also essential to getting us across the line for the Tech 2 guns. I do think there's a decent case to be made for trying to earn some of our 500 million ISK through exploration, but the dearth of ghost sites and sleeper caches we've encountered isn't going to bother me very much as long as it's helping us make progress on these other critical parts of our to-do list. This is very dangerous, but I just want a really quick one. A really quick screeny of Priscilla sucking down that gas. Alright, UI back on. We are at 7. $10 in pocket and 10 in the bank. Get it? Oh. Now let's probe down the rest of these signatures. See what else Katu Gumur has to offer us. Okay, there is an Ikitursa sitting here on this gate, a Triglavian assault cruiser that could absolutely wreck us. This is why we brought the cloak. It is time for me to do the micro warp drive cloak trick. I'm not gonna have time to talk through it properly, but basically I'm gonna align to something, immediately turn on my cloak, and then my micro warp drive, go 1 cycle, drop the cloak, and warp away. If this works, I'm sure I will cut away in a moment to an explanation of exactly what is going on here. Wish me luck. And I'm off grid. Fare thee well, Ikitursa. Okay, so before we can fully understand how the micro warp drive cloak trick works, we need to once again talk about how aligning and locking and warping work in relation to the server ticks of the game. EVE's not really a turn-based game. Things happen at all kinds of timescales, but for certain PvP interactions, changes in the game state occur locked to the 1 second update tick of EVE's server. So when you jump into a new system and you're sitting there holding gate cloak and you give the instruction to warp to the next gate, your ship starts aligning at the next tick after the server receives your command. So you click warp, and then your signal goes to the server. It takes the length of your ping to get there, and then once it arrives, the server waits until the next tick, and then your ship actually starts aligning. And if your align time is, in this example, say 1.8 seconds, you will align for 1.8 seconds, and then your ship will be ready to warp, but the server won't check to actually see if your ship should be in warp until the next tick. This is why a 1.1 second aligned ship is called a 2 second aligned ship, the same as a 1.99 second aligned ship. Both of them will actually enter warp at tick 2. Now, of course, even though your ship enters warp at tick 2, you won't instantly know right on tick 2 that you are in warp, because first off, there's a small processing and sync delay before the server sends out any new updates after the tick, which can vary from person to person, by the way. And then once that sync delay has finished, the signal goes out, but there will still be a delay equal to your ping before your client knows that you're in warp. So in this example with the 1.8 second line, we'll actually see the warp drive active text pop up on our screen about 2.1 to 2.2 seconds after we started aligning, which may itself be like half a second after we gave the command. Now let's look at that same thing from the other side, from the perspective of someone who's sitting on that gate in an interceptor with remote sensor boosters on it, say, and they've got their overview set up, so they're just waiting for you to drop gate cloak, appear on their overview. They've got their tackle mod pre-activated. All they have to do is click on you, the locking process will begin, and their point will be activated, and you'll be tackled. Theoretically, it seems like that should be able to happen very, very fast. An interceptor with remote sensor boosters on it can have its lock time against a frigate down to about half to 0.6 of a second pretty easily. But what actually happens on their end makes locking a frigate with a 2 second align almost impossible. Let's break it down. So you gave the command to issue warp, you waited for the ping, waited for the start of the next tick, your aligning began. Now, from the other person's perspective, they can't do anything until you actually appear on their overview. And once your aligning begins, they're going to have to wait that sync delay after the tick, and they're going to have to wait for their ping for however long it takes the message to get to them, and then your ship will appear on their overview. Then they can click. And the reaction time is going to be a delay. Human reaction time is usually about 200 to 250 milliseconds. Some people are significantly faster, but it's not zero. And once they've actually clicked to lock you, that message is going to have to travel back to the server, ping again. And then when the lock command is received, then the ship will actually start locking, and they'll have to wait the length of their lock time. And then once their lock time has fully progressed, the server will say, okay, we're going to lock this ship, but it won't actually apply the lock until the next tick. So in this example I've put up here, the lock has finished about halfway between tick 1 and tick 2, but the server won't actually apply the lock until tick 2 itself. Once tick 2 happens, the server will send a signal to the interceptor's client after the sync delay, and it'll take the ping to get there. And then one sync and one ping after tick 2, the interceptor will see your ship become locked. And at that point, if they have their tackle mod pre-activated, they will immediately, with no delay, send a signal back to the server saying, great, tackle them. That message will fly back to the server, ping again, and then the ship will actually become warp disrupted, except the ship they're trying to tackle will already be off grid. So the long and short of it is that your ship will actually enter warp at the next whole second after your align time. A line of 1.8 seconds means your ship enters warp at 2 seconds. And the interceptor will try and actually apply tackle at the next whole second after their sync plus their ping plus their reaction plus their ping plus their lock time. And if those 2 whole second values are identical, then the person trying to warp out will always get away. The tackler needs to make it so that their lock finishes 1 whole tick before the person trying to warp off grid. And it is possible. It is possible to get your lock time so low, to get your ping so low by moving to London, England, and to get your reaction time so low that you manage to get all of that done by tick 1, at which point a ship with a 2 second align is still going to get caught. That does happen, but it is so rare for all of the stars to align in that way. It basically never happens, except for in a few very specific systems. I don't recommend worrying about it too much. If you have a ship that can align under 2 seconds, you're going to get away 99.9% of the time. But if your ship aligns in 2.01 seconds, then the interceptor only needs to make sure that they finish their locking process by tick 2. And unless they're drunk or in Australia, then that's going to be pretty easy for them. So what does this all have to do with micro warp drives and cloaks? If we're sitting there with gate cloak, and instead of trying to warp to a gate, we align to a gate and then immediately activate our cloaking device, what happens is the same thing starts. We give the command to align to the gate. At the next tick, our ship starts aligning. But then we activate our cloak, and at the next tick, our ship disappears from the overview of our opponent. If you time it right, your ship is only visible for 1 tick, which means that they would need to have a 0-second lock time, and that's literally impossible. So there's no way for any ship in the game to get a lock on you when you align and cloak in that first tick. Now, after you cloak, you can still turn on your micro warp drive. You can't generally activate and keep modules activated while cloaked, but there's a short delay after you enter cloak that you can still activate some modules, and they will run for 1 cycle. So now we're cloaked, our micro warp drive is on, and we are aligning. The micro warp drive will run for 1 cycle. That's 10 seconds. So we have 10 seconds with the prop mod on to be trying to reach that 75% of our top speed so that when we decloak, we can warp immediately. Now the trick is the micro warp drive increases your top speed by about a factor of 7. However, a cloak decreases your max speed. If you have an improved cloaking device too, the cloak decreases your max speed by 75%, which means that given that the micro warp drive is increasing your speed 7-fold, you're still going to be going at 175% of your normal base speed, which means aligning in that 10 seconds should be no problem. When you decloak, you should still be at 75% of your uncloaked top speed easily. A prototype cloaking device 1, however, like we have, decreases your top speed by 90%. So even with the micro warp drive on, our cloaked prop mod on top speed is still only 70% of our usual maximum, which means that when we deactivate our cloak after our 10-second micro warp drive cycle is done, we will at most be at 70% of our max speed, and we'll still need to accumulate a little bit more speed before we can warp away to our destination. This is why you'll sometimes read people saying that you can't do the micro warp drive cloak trick with a prototype cloak. It doesn't work. But if you understand the targeting and warp mechanics, if you have a sufficiently fast aligning ship, even with a prototype cloak, you can be totally safe. Because our cloaked prop mod cycle ends, we click decloak, and then basically we're back in the same situation that we would have been in if we had just clicked warp while holding gate cloak, except that this time we're already a big part of the way towards being aligned. When I click to turn my cloak off, it starts flashing red, but it doesn't actually turn off until the next tick. And then my ship will start trying to get the rest of its speed, and I can try and warp out. Similarly, from the other side, at the next tick after I click decloak, there will be a sync delay, and then a ping delay, and then I will appear on my opponent's, on this Icky-Tursa's overview. What this means is that just as it's literally impossible to catch someone with a sub 1 second align, it is literally impossible for this Icky-Tursa to lock and scram me if I'm only on grid for 1 tick after decloaking. Now my probe, even though it's not a 2-second aligned ship, it's still a frigate. It aligns pretty fast. When I decloak after that prop mod cycle, and I'm at like 60 to 70% of my natural uncloaked prop mod off top speed, it should be pretty straightforward for me to click warp to whatever I was aligning to and actually have the rest of my aligning finish and my ship enter warp on the next tick. To see if that happened, we can just look. We can look at the moment I click the cloak off, we can see the cloak flash red, and then we can see, because the cloak stops flashing red and a gray cloak delay timer appears, that is the instant that my ship actually decloaked. If my ship is actually entering warp on tick 1 after I decloak, then I should see the warp drive active text pop up on my screen after 1 second plus sync plus ping. Here we go. And so, with a micro warp drive and a cloak, even a prototype cloak if your ship is nimble enough, you can arguably be even safer warping off gate than you would be with a 2-second align. With one important caveat. We've been talking as though the time that you're cloaked is sacrosanct. And yes, you can't be targeted while you're cloaked, but you can be forcibly decloaked. All someone has to do is get within 2 kilometers of you and your cloak will drop. And sure, space is big. It's hard to get within 2 kilometers of someone, especially if they're invisible. But remember, they will have seen you on their overview for 1 second, and a pilot who's paying attention will even be able to figure out the direction you started to align in. And there are gate camps out there that are set up with interceptors that are going to burn over to try and decloak you, or with fighters from an on-grid carrier or structure that will be sent at incredible speeds to the spot where you appeared to try and decloak you and prevent this micro-warp drive trick. And then when your cloak drops, your micro-warp drive is still on, your signature is bloomed, you are easy to catch. So whether you have the micro-warp drive in the cloak or whether you have the 2-second align, there are going to be gate camps out there that can catch you, and they won't always be the same gate camps. The only way to be 100% secure is to have an align under 1 second, and that is possible, but it's certainly not possible in any ship with the modules and skills that Bill has available. So we're going to take the win. We got out from underneath that Ikatursa, and with this micro-warp drive cloak trick now in our arsenal, we'll be able to sneak past a lot of other gate camps that would otherwise have easily caught our 2.9 second align for Scylla the Probe. Fare thee well, Ikatursa. There is a ghost site in the system, but there's no station for us to refit. Conveniently, we have a mobile depot. This will allow us to drop off all of our loot in the depot as well, in case the worst happens. Although, as we've seen, our new ghost site maximum explosive tank refit is actually doing very well. Here we go. Accidentally went for the top one. Got that useless chip. Oops. Can we do one more? Nope. And we're out of here. Well, we got an electro-neural signaler worth 0 ISK and 8 covert research tools worth 4 million ISK. I'll take it. I know that top, when you're in a ghost site, there are those 5 cans usually in a pyramid, and it really seems to be that top one of the pyramid that always contains this totally worthless electro-neural signaler. In future ghost sites, I'm going to be extra careful to avoid going to that can. I would have far rather hacked 2 cans worth of covert research tools. Rapture Nebula. Azure Cytosorosin. This is it. The last of our gas. And we only need 10. I am glad we came out to Heimatar and Molden Heath. Makes up for the fact that we've only found like 1 ghost site and barely got any ESC out of it. And we've only got, what, 5 spatial attunement units so far. But it's hard to complain about a lack of SAUs and a lack of ghost sites when we've got 2 of our last few remaining check marks set on this trip alone. And we have the system all to ourselves. 10 units of Azure Cytosorosin should take up the same space as 10 units of Vermilion Cytosorosin, 100 cubic meters. Means we will be at 392.5 of our 400 cubic meter limit. It's going to be time for us to head back to Thera, at least temporarily, as soon as we have this 10 Azure Cytosorosin in the hold. And then we can ditch these gas scoops for good. We can reprocess them, actually. I might just do that. I might just reprocess the gas scoops, get back our megasite, and a fair bit of everything else. But I mean, let's get our 10 atrocin first. Last cycle. Okay, where is our closest in-hole to Thera from Audesder? It's in Adol. Oh my goodness, 16 hours, a brand new entrance to Thera seems to have just spawned next door in Adald. Let's get this stuff home. We just scanned Adald like 5 minutes ago, and I scanned down several wormholes and just ignored them because we're trying to scan systems as quickly as possible, and there's a short list of signatures I was interested in, and wormholes was not one of them. But it turns out one of those wormholes that I dismissed is exactly what I wanted. The signature name is HYE254. Oh, and I already have 100% lock on it. That's hilarious. When I was scanning, there's other wormholes that I ignored that I had not gotten 100% locks on. But so then I just like left them. And this is the last signature I scanned in system. And on my scan that I found out it was a wormhole was also the exact same scan that I got 100% lock on it. So it's just sitting there in my signature list, waiting for me. Unique and mysterious Thera system. Here we come. Here we come with all this treasure. Not everything I was looking for, but it turns out everything I needed. So we've been about 4 or 5 days out in Minmatar Losec and Priscilla the Probe with her cloak on, traveling dozens, at least dozens of jumps, scanning hundreds of sites, and we're back to Thera intact. I don't think buying that cloak was a mistake at all. Okay, step 1, first thing on the list, bam, bam, 2 check marks. Oh, that center column is basically now just waiting for reaction and BPO purchases. Let's get all this salvage into our item hanger. This thing, absolute junk. And then the spatial attunement units. We have 15 of them now. Let's reprocess these, pull out their hypersynaptic fibers, pull out their fernite carbide, and see how we're looking when it comes to building thermonuclear trigger units. 69 of them, as I recall. To build 69 thermonuclear trigger units, we still need 10 more hypersynaptic fibers. We can probably do that in one more exploration outing to Losec, but it is becoming increasingly clear to me that hunting spatial attunement units is not going to be a valid way, or at least not a feasible way, to get our fernite carbide. Unless we have anything that we haven't reprocessed yet that can reprocess into fernite carbide. I still don't love the idea of reprocessing any of these remaining Tech 2 modules. We want to keep the drone, obviously. The multi-spec 2 and the medium capacitor booster 2 and the coprocessor 2 are things that, well, let's see. If we reprocessed these, we would get 1 oscillator capacitor unit, which does not reprocess into fernite carbide. We would get 3 tesseract capacitor units, which do not reprocess into fernite carbide. We would get 2 nanoelectric microprocessors, which do not reprocess into fernite carbide. And we would get 2 photon microprocessors, which do not reprocess into fernite carbide. The Covert Ops cloaking device, we are planning to reprocess, but the components that it gives, we are planning specifically to use to build a improved cloaking device too, and it doesn't matter, they don't give fernite carbide anyways. We might have some... I think we have some Tech 2 components kicking around still from when we reprocessed the guns and stuff. And I haven't checked to see, because we reprocessed that Tech 2 laser and a couple of other things, and we didn't look to see what they... Is this one? This is a Tech 2 component that we have. We already have 10 nanoelectrical microprocessors, but they don't reprocess into ferrite carbide. And we have 8 laser focusing crystals, and they don't reprocess into ferrite carbide. We could get 1 hypersynaptic fibers out of them. We probably should reprocess these, because I'm pretty sure the laser focusing crystals are only used to make Tech 2 lasers, which we're never going to use. So there's no point keeping the... Oh, wait. Scratch that. How many of these do we have? 8? Give me 1 minute. Acolyte 1 blueprint, 200,000 ISK. RAM robotics blueprint, 282,000 ISK. Well, let me tell you something about this exploration outing we just went on all through Hymatar, Metropolis, Molden Heath, looking for relic sites to give us spatial attunement units, looking for ghost sites, looking for sleeper caches to give us ISK. It absolutely 100% adhered to what I call Eve's first law of exploration. You will always find something, but you won't find what you were looking for. Spatial attunement units, we got 5 of them. Sleeper caches, nada. Ghost sites 1, and from it we got 4 million Sori ISK. But what we did find, oh man. So what's the status update? What's next? Well, in order to build our Tech 2 guns, we still need at least 10 more spatial attunement units to get our hypersynaptic fibers. And as for the ferrite carbide, we're going to be reacting that up from scratch. I'm sure of it. But the good news is, scandium? We've got scandium, it's already an Amamake. Vanadium? We've got vanadium, it too is sitting there in Amamake. Ferrite carbide is actually not going to be a problem for us. All we need to do is buy the reaction formulas, and it can be ours like that. So we react up the ferrite carbide, we go back to LOSEC, we find 10 more spatial attunement units, and then all that's going to be standing in our way of building out our 650mm artillery 2 blueprint is a little bit of morphite. So getting our hands on some more morphite is pretty high on our priority list right now. And in fact, however high priority we thought morphite was before, it just got higher. Because check this out. There's a gas cloud here, and it has a prospect in it. So I think it's time to grab a battle venture. So we're going to approach the cloud. He's 2 on the ball. Is he going to come back, though? Is he warping back in? He warped into cloud number 2, according to my bookmarks. Got him. He said in local that Venture might be armed, but he didn't listen to his own paranoia. Ah, it'll probably be fine. Kills you more than almost anything else in EVE Online. Sorry, Laka Lamara. This is how it goes sometimes. Good fight. What'd you drop for me? Not much. And poor Locke Lamora did not seem to take that very well.